She left me for someone better. Said I lacked ambition. Years later, she walked into my office, looking for a job. And I was the one interviewing her. There are moments that etch themselves into your bones. For me, it was the way she looked at me that night, calm, almost sorry, but certain. Like she had made peace with her decision long before speaking it out loud. Her words were measured, not cruel, but sharp enough to slice clean through whatever was left between us. I think I need more, she had said. Ambition. Direction. Someone who fits the life I see for myself. I stood there like a fool, holding the last bite of lasagna on my fork, blinking at the woman I had once believed would grow old beside me. The air in that dingy apartment kitchen had felt too still, like time was pausing just to give her the space to walk away. Her name was Rachel. We met at a friend's New Year's party when I was 24 and still bartending 3 nights a week to fund the half-finished dreams in my head. She was fresh out of grad school, interning at a real estate firm, glowing with confidence that came from a life spent knowing she was never going to settle for average. I guess I should have known from the start. But I fell hard. I cooked her dinners with food stamps and charm, saved up for months just to take her on one fancy date. I thought love meant growing together, not meeting a checklist someone else built for you. When she left, I did not yell. I did not beg. I remember just nodding, setting my fork down, and asking if she wanted help carrying her suitcase. She did not. The door clicked shut behind her, and that silence that followed was deafening. It was not heartbreak that crushed me, it was the understanding that I had been deemed not enough. Not enough money. Not enough progress. Not enough future. That night, I sat on the cold floor, back against the fridge, and let the weight of it all settle. I felt hollow. Used. Like the years we shared were just a layover for her real destination. And somewhere in that darkness, something shifted in me. Not anger. Not revenge. Just a decision. I was going to rebuild, not loudly, not to prove anything to her or anyone else. Quietly. Purposefully. On my own terms. The years that followed weren't glamorous. I took on work that most people overlooked, freelance gigs, long hours, nights with ramen and coffee instead of sleep. But little by little, the pieces started falling into place. A mentor. A breakthrough project. A promotion that came with a desk and, eventually, a door with my name on it. I didn't rise fast, but I rose steady, and I never once looked back. Until that Monday morning. When she walked in, she did not see me at first, but I saw her. And in that moment, everything I had become, everything she had once said I lacked, stood silently in that room. Would I say something? Would I remind her? Or let the silence speak louder than anything words could? She glanced up from her phone, expecting some middle manager or maybe the head of HR. What she got was me, seated at the end of the table, fingers steepled under my chin, watching her try to catch up with the reality that had just hit her square in the chest. Her posture stiffened. A pause, almost imperceptible, but I caught it. She blinked once, then twice, like her mind was flipping through old memories and finding the ending torn out. Michael, she said. I stood slowly, extending my hand across the table. Welcome to Crestmark. I'm the director of product strategy. You'll be on my team. Her hand was cold, or maybe mine was just too warm. I couldn't tell. She forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I had not seen that face in 5 years, but I knew her expressions by heart. And this one? It was panic wrapped in practiced poise. She tried to laugh it off. Something about how crazy life is, how the world is small, how she never expected this. Neither did I. Back when she left, I was still rebuilding websites for local dentists and restaurants, coding in my closet-sized room, eating dollar store mac and cheese like it was a delicacy. I took night classes in business analytics, scraped together a portfolio, cold emailed 200 companies, and slept on an air mattress for 2 years. I bled for this career. And now, here she was, sitting across from me in a navy pencil skirt and modest heels, trying to act like our past was not crackling in the air between us. I gave her the standard onboarding rundown. No bitterness. No passive-aggressive jabs. Just the facts. Clear. Professional. She nodded through it all, scribbling in a notebook that I bet was shaking in her hand. The other team members trickled in, and I watched her shrink into the crowd. She had always known how to command a room. But not today. That shift in power, it was not satisfying. It was strange. I did not feel triumphant. Just unsettled. Because the truth was, I had thought about this moment for years. Wondered what I would say if I ever saw her again. But when it finally happened, the words never came. I guess sometimes silence is louder than anything you could ever scream. But the past has claws. and I was not ready for what she left behind. I thought that would be it. A quiet moment. A polite handshake. A strange twist of fate I would file away in the life's weird folder and never touch again. But that was before I walked into the parking garage 2 days later and saw him. Derek. Tall. Perfect hair. Same smug energy I remembered from that old photo Rachel once showed me on her phone, way back when she still believed in full transparency. Back then, he had been just a friend from her new firm. The kind of guy who always wore tailored blazers and gave you handshakes that lasted a second too long. I had not thought about him in years. But now, there he was, standing next to her silver Audi like he belonged there. I ducked behind a pillar. He leaned in, said something low. Rachel laughed, but it was the hollow kind. Not the laugh I remembered from our Sunday mornings, tangled in blankets, when we used to joke about growing old in a house with squeaky floors and a badly trained dog. He kissed her cheek. She flinched, barely, but I saw it. I waited until he left before heading to my car. That night, I did something I swore I would never do again. I looked him up. Turns out, Derek had not aged well. At least not on paper. After a short-lived stint as a rising star at a finance firm, he had been quietly pushed out. Internal scandal. Nothing criminal, but enough to tank a career in that world. He tried to launch some startup with angel funding, but it failed within 18 months. Rumor had it he was now riding the coattails of old connections, consulting under someone else's name. That was the man she chose over me. The man she gambled on when she walked away from our tiny apartment, and the boy she thought would never make it. But I did make it. Not with noise. Not with drama. Just slow, deliberate progress. One late night at a time. And now? Now she was here, reporting to me. While the man she left me for waited outside like a shadow she could not shake. It should have felt like justice. But instead, all I felt was something cold curling at the edge of my ribs. Pity maybe. Or recognition. Because I knew something was coming. I was right. The past was not done with me. And Rachel was about to prove it. It hit my inbox on a Tuesday. Subject line, follow-up request. I almost deleted it without opening, until I saw who it was from. Rachel. I clicked. Just curiosity, I told myself. Just a manager reviewing a junior's question. But it was not that. It was 2 sentences, short, precise, but loaded with subtext. Hi, Michael. If you have a few minutes later this week, I'd appreciate a chance to talk. Something personal. No smiley face. No exclamation mark. No hint of casual. Just a door. I let it sit for 3 hours before replying. Thursday, 5 o'clock. Conference room C. No warmth. No question mark. No encouragement. I showed up early that day, staring out the tall window, watching the skyline melt into a golden haze. The office emptied slowly behind me. Lights clicked off. Laughter faded down the hallway. And then she walked in. She was nervous. I could see it in the way she clutched her notebook like it was a life raft. She sat, straightened her skirt, folded her hands. And for the first time in 5 years, she looked me in the eye and said it. I made a mistake. I did not flinch. She kept going. Said the life she chose turned out to be shinier on the outside, hollow on the inside. That Derek changed, or maybe he never really had anything to give besides polish and charm. That she missed simplicity. That she missed me. But she never said, I'm sorry. Not once. Instead, she asked if I remembered that weekend in the mountains, when we got lost and ended up sleeping in the back seat under 2 coats and a picnic blanket. I never felt safer, she whispered. It hit me like a punch. Not because I believed her, but because for 1 second, I wanted to. Then she reached across the table. I do not expect anything. I just wanted you to know. And I realized this was not about closure. Not really. This was about her trying to rewrite the ending, so she could live with it. But I already knew how the story ended, and it was not going to be hers to write. I sat there, staring at the table between us. Polished wood, faint coffee ring near the corner. The silence stretched so long I could feel her breathing change, shorter, tighter. She was waiting for me to say something. But I did not, because I remembered everything. The night she left, I cried for exactly 4 minutes in the shower, then stared at the bathroom mirror until my reflection blurred. That was the night I deleted every photo of her from my phone. The one where she was laughing on the swings, the blurry shot of her in my hoodie, the one where she looked asleep but was faking it just to mess with me. Gone. Back then, I told myself I would use the pain to build something better. And I did. I started waking up at 5, wrote code until my fingers cramped, turned down parties, cut out distractions, kept my head down. While she was falling in love with a man who talked in return on investment ratios and vacationed in places I could not pronounce, I was surviving off gas station coffee and secondhand ambition. And now, here she was. Not begging, not apologizing, just showing up, like that was enough. I stood slowly, the chair legs scraping the floor just enough to make her flinch. "I hope you find peace," I said. "But I am not the man you left anymore." I walked to the door, opened it, and paused. "I do not hate you, Rachel, but you lost me a long time ago." And with that, I stepped out. I heard nothing behind me. No footsteps. No tears. Just the low hum of the building as it settled into night. Grace is not loud. It does not need an audience. It just walks away when it is time. But the story was not over yet, because someone else had been watching all along. Her name was Ava. She had joined my team 6 months before Rachel walked through the door. Sharp, observant, with this calm kind of presence that made people talk more than they meant to. She never overshared, never interrupted, just listened like your words actually mattered. We had shared a dozen late nights in the office, finishing slide decks, reviewing data, troubleshooting bugs. Nothing romantic. Not then. Just mutual respect, good coffee, and the occasional sarcastic comment that made long hours easier to bear. She never asked about my past, but I should have known she noticed. That Thursday, the same night Rachel dropped her little confession in conference room C, I found a sticky note on my desk the next morning. It was simple. Just 3 words. "You okay, Chief?" I smiled, because I knew Ava was not just asking for the sake of it. She had seen Rachel's first day, watched my jaw tighten, saw how Rachel's smile never quite landed. She had picked up on every glance, every pause, the way Rachel lingered after meetings, hoping for something I was never going to give. Ava saw it all, and she never asked me to explain. That Friday, we both stayed late again. Not planned, it just happened. She brought Thai food. I brought the last report I needed to sign off. Somewhere around midnight, as we leaned against opposite ends of the same desk, picking at cold noodles and reviewing Q3 metrics, Ava said something I never forgot. "You did the hard thing, you know, letting someone fall without needing to catch them." I looked at her, really looked this time, and I saw something there: quiet understanding. No judgment, no pity, just someone who had carried her own weight, fought her own battles, and somehow still chose kindness. I did not respond, just nodded. But something shifted in me that night, because for the first time in a long time, I realized my story did not have to end with the woman who walked away. Then came the call that threatened to pull it all back under. It was a Sunday afternoon when my phone rang, an unknown number, local area code. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me swipe. "Michael." The voice cracked slightly, like it was trying too hard to sound composed. It was Rachel. I felt my stomach tighten. She said she was sorry to bother me on the weekend, but it was urgent. I did not say anything, just waited. That silence must have gotten to her, because she rushed in like she was trying to outrun her own voice. "It's Derek," she said. "He's been arrested." I closed my eyes, leaned back on the couch. Of course. She launched into a story about missing funds, falsified invoices, how he had gotten involved with some crypto firm overseas. There was an investigation. His firm cut ties. Assets frozen. She was being questioned, too, because some of the money had passed through their shared accounts. I sat up. "Why are you calling me?" "I did not know who else to call," she said, her voice breaking. "I am scared, Michael." She paused like she was waiting for me to soften. But I stayed quiet. She hesitated. "I know you understand how Derek operates. You were always smarter than he gave you credit for." She wanted help. Legal advice. Connections. A statement maybe, if they tried to drag me into this. She was grasping. Drowning. Reaching for the only steady hand she remembered. But I had nothing left to give her. "Rachel," I said, and I made sure every word was deliberate, "you chose him. And I accepted that. I built something from what you left behind. But I am not your safety net." She said my name again, soft, almost pleading. "You made your decision. This is what it means to live with it." I ended the call. I sat there for a long time after, staring at the blank TV screen in front of me, its reflection showing a man I barely recognized from 5 years ago. Back then, I would have picked her up without hesitation. I would have fought for her. But that man was gone. I had rebuilt my life brick by brick, with quiet mornings and late nights, small wins and relentless effort. I had crafted a peace that did not depend on anyone choosing me, and I was not about to give it up now. I put my phone on silent and walked out into the evening air. The sun was setting, the sky streaked in deep orange and purple, like the kind of watercolor painting people try too hard to replicate. It felt calm, solid, like closure. But the final twist came not from Rachel or Derek, but from someone I never expected. 3 days after Rachel's call, I was at the office late again. Ava had already left, and the floor was quiet, just the hum of servers and the occasional creak of the old HVAC system. I liked those moments. They reminded me of the early days, when it was just me and a laptop that overheated if I pushed it too hard. I was halfway through reviewing a funding pitch when I heard the knock. Not on my office door. On the glass wall. I looked up and froze. It was Rachel's mother. Mrs. Lansing, real estate royalty. The type of woman who wore pearls like they were part of her spine and spoke in measured tones that made even hello sound like a threat. She had not changed much. Same flawless posture, same perfectly tamed hair. But something in her eyes was different. Less polished. More raw. I opened the door, not out of curiosity, but out of instinct. Some habits are hard to shake. She stepped inside without waiting to be asked. "Michael," she said, with that same stiff-lipped grace. "I hope you can spare a moment." I nodded slowly. "I want to apologize," she began, and that caught me off guard. She said she had misjudged me. That all those years ago, when Rachel brought me home, she only saw what I lacked. The salary, the suit, the pedigree. She had never seen the core. "Turns out," she said, "all that glitter was paper thin. And the one man we dismissed was the one who endured." I did not respond. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. Handed it to me without explanation. Inside was a handwritten note from Rachel. Short, honest. It said she was leaving town, that she needed time, that she had lost more than she ever realized, and not just me. Herself too. And that she hoped, someday, she might be the kind of person I could at least respect again. There was no ask. No contact info. Just a line that read, "Thank you for not becoming what I feared you would." I sat with that note in my hand long after Mrs. Lansing left. She had come not to plead, but to acknowledge. And in that moment, I felt the weight of something lift. Not fully, not cleanly, but enough to breathe easier. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is not success. It is becoming someone who never needed it. The last piece of this story would come quietly, no drama, no spectacle, just one small moment that said everything. It happened on a Wednesday, almost 2 months after Rachel left the company. The office was buzzing with our latest product launch. Investors were thrilled. Our user base was doubling weekly, and my team, tight-knit and sharp, was running like a machine. Ava had stepped into more leadership. She was a natural, even if she did not see it yet. I was in the break room making terrible coffee when I saw her. Not Rachel. Ava. She was laughing with someone from DevOps, her whole face lit up in that easy way she had when she forgot the world was watching. I stood there for a moment, unnoticed, just watching. And that was when it hit me. Not some lightning bolt. Not a soundtrack swelled epiphany. Just a quiet truth. I was content. Not because Rachel was gone. Not because I had won. But because I had found something real in the ruins she left behind. Because I had stopped measuring my worth against someone else's approval. Ava turned, caught my gaze, and smiled, just a small, knowing thing. Like she saw more than I meant to show. I raised my mug. She raised her Diet Coke. That was it. No dramatic kiss. No grand monologue. Just two people who had weathered their storms and were still standing. Still choosing to work. The peace. The slow kind of trust that grows when no one is trying to impress anyone. That moment meant more to me than any promotion, any headline, any win. Because it was mine. Quiet. Earned. Honest. I used to think closure came in the form of revenge. Success. A look at me now moment with an audience. But the truth? Closure is realizing you no longer need the apology. It is waking up and not thinking about the ones who left. It is knowing you would not trade who you are now for who you were when they walked away. The final chapter, where the last, quiet choice seals everything for good. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a message through LinkedIn. An actual letter. Thick paper, neat handwriting, no return address. It was from Rachel. She had left the city. Said she was staying with a cousin upstate. Taking time to disappear for a while. No requests. No lingering hope. Just one final message that read more like a journal entry than anything meant for me. She admitted she had confused comfort for love. That she once believed security had to look a certain way. Suits, titles, polished dinner parties. That she could not see the quiet kind of strength back then. The kind that shows up, stays late, build slow, and never asked for applause. She said I had become the kind of man she used to tell herself did not exist. And she ended with just this: "If you ever think of me, I hope it is not with hate. I hope it is just a passing thought. A lesson. Nothing more." I folded the letter once and set it in a drawer I rarely open. Not out of spite, just because it belonged to a version of me that no longer needed revisiting. And that was the last I ever heard from her. Life moved forward. Ava and I never had a grand beginning. No sudden romance. Just slow mornings and shared silences, the kind that feel full instead of empty. We never talked much about Rachel. She knew enough. I never had to explain. Sometimes people want closure to be a confrontation, a dramatic comeback, a spotlight moment where the tables turn and the world applauds. But real closure? It is walking away without needing the last word. It is success that does not need to be flaunted. It is standing at the edge of everything you lost and realizing you never needed it to begin with. So when I passed by the old cafe Rachel and I used to go to, years later, and saw someone who looked like her through the glass, I just kept walking. Not out of coldness, not out of pride, but because I was already somewhere else entirely, and I liked where I was going.